In today's video, we're going to be working on the Hellcat Swap Ram, but just before we get started, I have tickets to Mo Party this year. It's from September 16th through the 18th in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So if you guys are local, if you're able to attend that place at that time, I'll be there with the Hellcat Swap Ram and the Hellcat Swap Dodge Dakota. I'd love for you guys to come out. So make sure you're able to attend, and the way you're going to get a hold of these tickets, follow me here on YouTube. Also follow me on Instagram. And you're gonna direct message me the exact key phrase that you see here on the screen. So first person to message me with the key phrase on the screen right here is gonna get themselves 2 tickets to Mo Party. And make sure you guys have your notifications turned on here on YouTube. Hit the little bell icon, switch it to all, because I have more tickets to give away. So the early bird's gonna get the worm. Let's get started on today's video. All right, welcome to today's video. So we're gonna be continuing to work on the Hellcat Swap Ram 1500. If you can see here behind me, my drive shaft did show up. So I have to double check a few things, but we're not quite there yet for installing it. Got a bunch of stuff that showed up, you guys. I went ahead and got some of these airbags, the ones that go in the coil spring, because if we're gonna be towing the Dakota with it, and this thing's already lowered, I wanted a bit of support in the back so we're not bottoming out the whole time. So I might try to get those in there. Also, my knock sensor finally showed up. This was a huge issue trying to get this here, so thanks again to my buddy Shane. He hooked me up with this knock sensor, got it here in due time. So I'm gonna throw this on because one of the codes that it's throwing. Let's go ahead, put this on, and then we'll get started on some other stuff. Okay, so we'll swap out this knock sensor. This is the older style one that I just threw here temporarily. So it was from the 5.7, but it's a different style. Okay, this is as easy as one bolt, and that one's done. All right, so it's actually the next day. Just been messing with a bunch of little things, you guys, but what I just started messing with right now is I'm installing the Airlift 1000 kit. So this is the HD kit. I went with the HD kit. If you guys do or don't know, they sell 2 kits. One's cheaper, one's more expensive. The bags on the HD kit are of a more thicker rubber. Some guys were having issues with puncturing bags. And since I'm putting this in a smaller condensed spring, I figured might as well go with the HD. Plus, since we don't run bump stops, I figured these would also be a good addition. One of the major reasons why I'm putting this in is so that we can tow with it. When we tow the Hellcat, the Hellcat Swap Dodge Dakota, to Bowling Green, Kentucky for Mo Party, I want to be able to tow this thing without it being sacked out and just framed out. So that's why we're going to put these in here. We'll be able to adjust the back of our truck accordingly. So I got one of them in here. I ended up just letting the suspension fully hang, rolled it up like a hot dog like they said in the instructions, and managed to just stuff that in there. And then this is with it under load, so you can see here that's what it looks like. And then if you air it up, obviously it's gonna lift the back of the truck. So I'm gonna do the other side. I haven't done the other bag, so I'll show you guys that procedure. And then it's pretty much just as simple as running the line from the bag. We're gonna tee it off. It comes with the line. I'll link these down below. If you guys do or don't know, you can get good deals on stuff like this. So this was an open box, and I saved myself like 30 bucks on the purchase. So that's what I did off Amazon. I'll link this down below if you guys are interested in this. So it comes with your hardware. It's gonna come with 2 of these little valves here, but I'm gonna tee it in and just have one. That way both bags are always balanced, so you don't have to fill them up individually. And I didn't get the kit that comes with like a remote control or anything. You just fill these up manually, which is perfectly fine. It's not like I'm towing every single day, so for the amount that we'll be towing with this, having them manually adjustable is perfectly fine. So anyways, how this goes in is you take this cap off. This is the way it looks normally inflated. Take the cap off. There's no Schrader valve in this. And then you roll it up, and I'll show you guys. I put my knee here and my knee here on the ground and rolled it into a hot dog bun, and then you put the cap back on. That's what they say to do in the instructions. This goes on the very top. So this goes in the top to hold, you know, to give you a surface for the bag to press against, because otherwise there's just a hole in the top. And that's pretty much it. You just roll it up and put it in there. So let me show you guys how I collapse this thing fairly easily, and then I'll throw it in there and show you guys that procedure. So like I said, this is how I did their little hot dog bun thing. Put my knee here, collapse it, my other knee here, and I just rolled it like this. So I went like this, and then try to roll it as much as you can. But putting your 2 knees into this is really the key ticket, I feel like, to get this done. I'm just gonna cap it for a second so I can reposition myself. See here, there's that little hot dog bun shape. Now I'm gonna squeeze it like this. And we can fold it a little bit more. So I'm gonna let air out of it again. That's about as much as you can get out of it, but it's pretty easy, and I have shorter springs than the average Joe would as well. So there you go. Here's this hot dog bun shape. Let's go ahead and throw it in the spring. Alright, so even though the air chuck doesn't really fit on here, you can put your fingers around it and put some air in there, and then that's what it looks like when it's fully installed. But like you saw on that side, when you like put pressure on it, it does kind of collapse in the spring, but that's what it looks like when everything is fully extended. Now I can go ahead and run my line. It's kind of nice to do it this way, that's why I'm doing it now. Run my line to the back, and then once we put the cab on, then I can figure out where I'm going to put it on the back bumper or whatever. Also, you may have noticed this was pretty helpful in, just kind of shoving it in there. I used the 3/8 extension. It's not pointy, so you're not going to worry about puncturing it, but it fits in the spring coils pretty nicely to be able to manipulate the bag. And then, like I said, once you get it close up here, just get this on, you guys, put some air in it, and it kind of just finds its home inside the spring. All right, the next thing is pretty exciting, you guys. So this thing is super quiet at the moment. By the time it goes through the factory catalytic converters, it comes out through the exhaust, factory resonators, and the tiny little factory tubing, it's pretty quiet. But since this isn't a daily driver anymore, and it was when I originally had that exhaust, we are going with the Flowmaster Catback Outlaw system. You can see there the size of the muffler. That is not a big muffler, boys. And it also has 3-inch piping all the way back. So I figured before we put the bed on, it's really easy to do it right now since it's all from the top. I don't have to lay on my back mostly. You can probably get to most of it from the top. So I'm gonna go ahead, throw this on there, and this thing is going to bark, you guys. So like I said, we will be redesigning the exhaust in the front section later, but for now, this is gonna give it a lot of sound, and I think it's going to sound incredible. So let's go ahead, start getting some of this piping on here. It's pretty cool. It's all 3-inch, it's all bolt on, so let's get to work. All right, guys, so we got it installed, and that is a small muffler. So I haven't tightened up the back piping yet or put the tips on, because obviously I'm gonna have to mess with the alignment once I get the bumper on so that everything looks good out the back, but everything else is tight leading up to there. So all there is left to do is see what this thing sounds like. So let's go ahead and grab the key and fire this puppy up. Ready? That sounds like a Hellcat now. Oh my god, you guys. Sounds so good. That definitely sounds like a Hellcat. Let's see, let's give it some sauce. try it again with the mic. Oh my god, you guys sound so good. So it's actually the next day, and let me get you guys caught up to speed. So we originally left the original 8HP 70 in here, and reason being was because I just want to get the truck up and running. As you guys know, we have to be at Mo Party in like 2 weeks, just in around 2 weeks, and I was going to drive it all the way there towing the Hellcat. So I wanted to leave the original transmission just so I had less to contend with. But if you guys recall, when we took out the engine, the torque converter, even though I took the bolts out of the torque converter from the flex plate, torque converter ended up popping off the transmission, whatever. It spilled some fluid, not the end of the world. When I put it back together, I ended up starting the truck because I was waiting for, if you guys have ever done it or you guys know about it, there's a special fluid you have to use on this. If you use any other ATF, it'll usually destroy the transmission. So I was waiting for that stuff to arrive, but I figured I might as well start it. It might be, you know, down a little bit from spilling out some fluid from the torque converter. Anyways, I didn't think it was going to be a big deal, and I still don't even know if that's the cause, but long story short, this transmission is absolutely squealing like a pig. Let me insert the video right here. So far, I've tried refilling the transmission, I've tried running it through the gears, I've tried doing the fill procedure. There's a very specific fill procedure on this, and it still will not stop making noise. We also ended up adding a transmission tune to it to see if maybe something to do with, you know, the power levels or the communications coming from the Hellcat PCM, if that was maybe overdriving or overpressurizing the pump or something like that, and we're getting some pump squeal. But when we put in a transmission tune, it actually made it scream even more, which is the video clip that you just heard right there. If you listen to this little clip I'll insert here towards the end of it, after I rev it, you hear a faint squeal. But that was before we put a transmission tune in it. After we put the tune in it, now it just screams like crazy after we're commanding a little bit more out of it. This thing sounds so good. So what the game plan is here is I have a few options. I have on the ground here, along with my Driveshaft, I have another 8HP 70, which is kind of like a bittersweet. I could put it in. I was told that it was working perfectly when it was removed, but I could put it in. It would be a bolt-on affair. We'd just be back in business. But in the end, it's still going to live a short-lived life because of the power levels coming out of that Hellcat motor. Next to it, you'll see an 8HP 90. So I also have a 90 here, which I was holding back on putting this in because it kind of just opens up a whole can of worms. As you'll see here, here is our adapter that comes off the flange that comes off the back of the 70. It's this 4-bolt flange. It's got the center locating pin. This is the flange that comes off the back of the 90. And usually you run an adapter here and it brings it out here, and your U-joint's way out here, which is what the Dakota has right now, which I don't like. Because the bearing that's inside here, by the time you get that U-joint out here, you get any play in any of this assembly back here, and you're essentially like putting a big pry bar on this back bearing, so you get anything that's even the slightest bit out of round. And every drive shaft, even though it's balanced, they're not, you can see they have weights to try to accommodate for some imperfections. So you start getting that way out there on that U-joint, and it puts a ton of stress on the bearing in the back of the transmission. And I ended up having a failure on the 90, so I wanted to go with something like this. This transmission looks to be like from the back of the bearing here, it's about 1.5 inches longer. So I was just trying to see if I do end up putting the 90 in, I put this flange on there, but I'm still about 1.5 inches back. I just had this custom drive shaft made. It's a 5-inch all aluminum drive shaft that we had made. But it would end up being, I don't know that we'd be able to use this because it might be too long. We would have to shorten our drive shaft again. So that's kind of the pickle that I'm in right now. I'm gonna right now collapse the stock one. I know it's not ideal power level wise, but at least if I can get to work, I'm gonna try and see how much this will collapse. This was the install length that I took it out at, and it's pretty much matched up with our new drive shaft. But what I want to see is if I can push it in 1.5 inches without it bottoming, then I know at least just to get us moving, if I put this flange onto our 90, that I can collapse the stock drive shaft enough to at least bolt it up so that we have a functioning vehicle, while I probably send this back to get it shortened to the correct length. Whole pickle, you guys. Not only that, the bolt pattern for the back mount is different, so I'll have to modify our transmission bracket. I have to do custom transmission lines. I got to get a different starter motor. But with all that said and done, this one would be able to hold the power. It just opens up a whole can of worms. That's where we're at right now. So I haven't fully decided. What I am going to do is I'm going to make one last ditch effort to see. I want to try doing a quick learn on the transmission and see if for some reason it adjusts itself, the adaptives and all that stuff, and see if maybe that somehow cures it just before we start removing this transmission. So I'm waiting for some more parts. We've got some different filter socks coming for the pump. That's why I haven't put the bed on. They should arrive tomorrow. Once that comes, then I can put those on and then we can put the bed back on. But this exhaust sounds spicy. Our lines are all routed for our airbags, but now we've got a whole new issue. So let me go ahead, do this quick learn on this thing. Let's see where we end up today, boys. So I just did some measurements, you guys. It does look like the factory drive shaft has enough slip in it, in that slip joint in the middle, that I can probably collapse it enough to get it to work with the 90 without it being completely bound, because you don't want that. You'll end up driving that flange right into the back of the transmission. But it does look like we should be able to get away with it. This one, I think we'll probably have to send it off to get recut, but we can always remeasure once everything is in. But I think that's going to be an option. I'm just a little bit worried about putting the 90 in and then somehow not having a drive shaft to make this all work. But what I want to do right now, just to double check things, I'm going to go ahead and just throw this on, and then we'll do the relearn procedure, because we are going to have to, you know, apply the brakes and stuff like that. So we're going to need a drive shaft in there. So just real quick, we'll throw in our built drive shaft in the truck, try that quick learn, see if it does anything. If not, we're going to start yanking the transmission. All right, so check this out, you guys. So if I put a straight edge right here up against transmission, if I can do this with the camera in the way, and I go from the top of the bell housing right there to here, it ends up being 26.25. If I do the same thing on this one, hopefully you guys can see there, it's pretty much 25. So hopefully you guys can see that. So essentially, so let me get this off of here and I'll show you guys what I mean. Regardless of me swapping the two flanges, once we have it on there, the other transmission, the Hellcat transmission, is going to be longer. So I do have, when I pull this up here, it is, I think that's fully collapsed, but it's maybe 1.5 inches. So I'm gonna double check. It might be really close. And I'll also have to double check with Steve from Dynotech, who built this, if how much, I guess, play I have to have as the axle comes up. I gotta, like I said, I'm not too familiar with this stuff, so I don't know if, I think when it comes up, it gets shorter, the drive shaft gets shorter, but I'll have to double check if it gets longer or shorter when things end up, you know, being under stress. So I'll double check all that. But let me go ahead and bolt this up. It is, I think that's fully collapsed, and I have like 1.5 inches, so I might have a 1/4 inch of play to play with, but I don't know. I'm thinking that's probably not enough, but let me just double check everything. But on the other side of things, I do think I'll be able to get away with it with this stock one, at least so that we're back in business. Okay, so we have it running right now, and it's weird. Like sometimes it doesn't make it. Like right now, nothing, silent. Absolutely nothing. So let's try and do a transmission relearn on it. Maybe if we're really lucky, it might fix something, but this thing has a mind of its own. This thing sounds so good with that exhaust, you guys. Well, let me get this set up and then I'll let you guys see when it's in the relearn process. Okay, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but the sound is just starting up right now. So I reset the adaptives. Now we're gonna do a quick learn. Hit start. Oh, it's outside the allowable range. It wants to wait for the temperature to get up to that. Man. Alright, I'll let this thing squeal until the transmission gets up to temperature. Watch, watch, this is how you know it is transmission. So we're in neutral right now, or park, watch. Reverse. Here, go away. Neutral, starts up. Drive. Goes away. So it's when something's free spinning in the transmission. So weird. So it's not letting me run the quick learn for whatever reason. It might be because the traction lights are on. So the boys at Diablo Sport are sending over, I think, a different file so that the traction control system is all happy, and maybe we can run a quick learn. But what I want to do right now is not exactly essential at the moment, but I want to clean this out, and we are going to open this up so that it actually is functional. This is the lower air dam that goes, I can't remember which way's up, I think it's this way. But it goes in our front bumper so that we actually have air going to our oil cooler once we put the bumper back on. So what I'm gonna do is just knock this down, and then I just want to gut this. I want to leave the nice trim on the outside, but all this center junk is all gonna come out. So let me work on that. I'll show you guys how I do it. All right, well, that took a lot longer than I wanted it to, boys, but got it done and really happy with the way it came out. So let's go ahead and we'll insert it into our bumper and see how it looks. So we got a nice trim piece, but it's gonna allow for air to pass through, so I think it's gonna look pretty dang good. So we'll pop this back in here with its little speed clip. So let me get two hands on it and show you guys what it looks like. All right, so it's hard to see because it's down low, but that looks so good, you guys. Just a nice clean trim all the way through, and the bumper's still structurally sound. It's not like it's all flimsy or anything, but that looks really, really good. So that's all done, so that when we're ready to put a bumper on, I don't have to muck with it. It's already done. So it's still making that screaming chicken noise, you guys, out of the transmission. So while I try to decide what I want to do with that, like, watch, listen. That is, but while I figure out that, I'm gonna go ahead and swap out the supercharger, since that's another item that needs to be done. I might as well get that over and done with. That way at least that's out of the way. So we got the new one in the box. I'm just gonna rip right through it. I'm gonna do a time lapse. I'm not gonna explain too much, you guys, because I'm kind of just getting burnt out on this truck. It's just so many little stupid things that are going wrong with it, and I'm just trying to run through them so we can finally get to road testing it and I'll feel a lot better. So I'm gonna go ahead, I gotta drain the coolant for the supercharger right here, and then I gotta start disconnecting stuff and then yank it. Probably move my AC lines out of the way so we don't damage those, because I gotta come up through here and get this thing done. All right, guys, new supercharger is in. Definitely not my favorite thing to do, but I got it done. And she's in there, connected to the fuel line. So I'm gonna try a different tune that Diablo Sport sent over. So I'm gonna see if that does anything different with the transmission, and then we will decide what we're gonna do. At least one of the issues is out of the way, so the old supercharger. I was actually talking to my buddy Brian at Diablo Sport, and he said He suspects, based on the sound that he heard, that it's probably, and it'd be actually nice if it's just the snout bearings. He said it sounded like it was just the snout bearing, so that wouldn't be that hard to correct. And then I have some cool ideas for this. We're not getting rid of this, boys, but I have some cool ideas for maybe the SST, but I don't want to say too much. But anyways, let's go ahead and see how this thing sounds. I'm sure it's going to sound like brand new because it is brand new, and we'll go from there. So we're definitely going to have to prime the fuel system, so we'll cycle the key a few times, make sure we got no leaks. So I don't see any fuel leaks. I cycled it probably 5 times or so. It's probably going to cough and sputter because there's going to be air in those fuel rails. But let's go ahead. Belts are on. We should be good. Let's see what we got. Oh. Like I said, we're going to have air in the lines. Sounds like we got cammed, boys. It would be nice to cam this thing at some point. Alright, let's try again. She's pissed. I have to get all that air out of those lines. That's a problem. Well, that's the thing with these systems, because they are a returnless style. It doesn't really cycle the fuel, so it kind of just has to make its way through the air. Okay, I think she worked herself out. She's definitely mad though, that's for sure. Okay, I was just checking my codes with Alpha and I forgot to plug in a sensor. I was dressing up some wires. So she's mad about this. So we'll plug this one back in. So that's why she is angry with me. Alright, well that sounds a little better, guys. So she's a lot more happy. That supercharger definitely sounds a lot more healthy. You can just hear the normal whine, but not all the clanking and clattering that we could hear before. Alright guys, so it's late here and I'm gonna wrap up this video here. So as it stands, a new supercharger's on. It sounds way better. Only thing is, it did come with all different sensors and there's something all of a sudden that's not happy. It's saying service electronic throttle. The throttle doesn't work. It's kind of like running a little bit funny, so I gotta work through that now, just another issue. One weird thing though is, for whatever reason, I'm not hearing no squealing or screeching noise, so keep your fingers crossed for me. Maybe it had something to do with that supercharger. Maybe the bearings were making that weird noise and it was somehow sounding like it's coming from the transmission. At this point, I don't even know. This thing is like cursed, so thanks for watching, guys. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. Comment down below on what you guys think on all this stuff. I'm really doing my best to get this thing going, but it is fighting me right now, but we'll get through it. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video.